Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano. Today's the 7th of April, 2023. Right, everyone, let's get into it. So we have some updates on Prysm's EIP-4844 implementation today. This comes from Terrence, who works at the Off-Chain Labs team on the Prysm client. So Prysm has the following has gotten the following to work: state transition, validator blob signing, blob syncing alongside blocks, blob storage and pruning, and local devnet with multiple Prysm nodes and validators. And then Terrence says Prysm is ready for a multi-client devnet. And this is pretty cool. I mean, as I've gone through before on the refuel, there are these different stages that these upgrades go through, and a multi-client devnet is definitely one of those big milestones that you want to see. Obviously, Ethereum is a multi-client network. There is various different clients that need to talk to each other, and the fact that Prysm is already ready for a multi-client devnet for 4844 is really promising. I'm sure some of the other clients or most of the other clients aren't too far behind here, so they'll be able to do these, and you'll be seeing screenshots of this of terminal windows, I'm sure, on Twitter when these multi-client devnets get spun up. And there's also a GitHub tracker for the remaining tasks to get to feature completion and production ready, which are tracked here. And I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to check out, of course. But yeah, just continuing the theme of 4844 coming along really nicely. I'm getting more and more confident that this is definitely going to be ready by the time Cancun, the next network upgrade, rolls around, which will hopefully be by the end of this year. Timing on Cancun is quite difficult right now. You know, I've seen some people say that we could get it by June and July. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's going to be at least 6 months after Shanghai before we get Cancun. I don't think it's going to happen any earlier than that. So, you know, Shanghai is going live obviously next week on the 12th of April, and then you have May, June, July, August, September, October, right? That's 6 months. So that's why I'm saying later this year, you know, Q4 is when I would expect this to go live. But if the test nets kind of uncover some bugs and things like that need to be fixed, and things can keep getting pushed out, and it may end up happening early next year. But the goal is definitely to get it done this year, and I definitely think that seems reachable from what achievable, I should say, from what I've seen so far. But we'll have to keep tabs on this, and I'll keep you guys updated on how all this progress goes. But I'm sure you're going to be seeing a lot of terminal windows, as I said, on Twitter, a lot of screenshots of the terminal windows of these devnets being spun up. Now, I spoke, I believe, yesterday or the day before about this kind of effectiveness rating, or the effectiveness of ETH stake or validators on the network, and how it's been going down because of what happened with the Mevboost relay bug that was patched. And Data Always here had brought up something and DM'd me about it, which I thought was something that was worth talking about with this effectiveness rating. So the effectiveness rating isn't just I guess, like, affected by validators, right? By validator effectiveness, and there are different kind of ratings here. So Data Always points out that the effectiveness rating has been down only because the effective stake per validator is capped at 32 ETH, but people have unwithdrawable rewards accruing until Shanghai. So to put this in plain English, 32 ETH is the cap on a validator in terms of effectiveness, which means that any more ETH per validator than that isn't doing anything, right? The stake effectiveness is 0 because you don't get more rewards for having more ETH per validator. 32 ETH per validator is what you get rewards on. Now, because withdrawals haven't been enabled yet, there are obviously a lot of validators that have more than 32 ETH as part of them, because they haven't withdrawn their consensus layer rewards, because it isn't actually possible to do that. So you can see in this chart, it has been down only because of that, basically, and we would expect this to go straight to 100% within 5 days of withdrawals going live, because all of the consensus layer rewards, all those consensus layer rewards are going to be automatically swept. Now, I say all, but there is a caveat here, and why it won't go to exactly 100%. Anyone who hasn't changed their withdrawal credentials from 0x00 to 0x01 will not be automatically swept. Their consensus layer rewards will not be automatically withdrawn until they actually change their credentials. So there will be a certain percentage of validators that haven't changed over for whatever reason, and then they won't. It won't be withdrawn that way there. So yeah, well, we can expect this to go up a lot from where it is now. It's not going to be down only post withdrawals anymore. So that's something to keep in mind and something to be aware of as well. But from what I can tell, we still have those validator effectiveness, or generally validators not being as effective as they were if they're talking to external block builders because of this Mevboost relay bug that was patched, and they're still working on a better way to patch this in order to bring us back to where we were. But yeah, I just figured that was worth highlighting. All right, so Trent Van Epps has a thread all about the KZG Ceremony special contributions, which started this week. So I did mention yesterday the special contribution from CryptoSat, which was the one that was signed in space, which was very, very cool, obviously. But this thread from Trent is going to be keeping track of all the other ones. So there's one other one that Trent has in this thread so far. This is a 3D printed marble machine, which is pretty cool. So that's another source of entropy there. And it's even got like the Ethereum name at the top there, which I thought was very, very cool. And the Ethereum logo down the bottom. And CryptoKitty as well, I'm just noticing. Actually, it's got a few different memes here. I'm just seeing this now. Actually, I didn't see this before. There's the panda. There's the burn. So sorry, there's a flame, which obviously references the burn. With EIP-4844. There's a rocket ship, which could, I guess, reference two things: ETH going to the moon and rocket pool. There is blocks falling down here, which obviously references blocks on the network. And I'm sure I'm missing other references here, but I'm just eyeing this off my data here as well. That's pretty cool. This is actually really, really cool. It's not just a generic marble machine. It's actually one that's been designed with Ethereum Easter eggs in mind. So very, very cool to see that. But yeah, if you want to keep track of all the special contributions that are going, or at least the ones that interest Trent, I guess, the most, or the ones he comes across, you can check out his thread, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. All right, so I shouted this newsletter out a few weeks ago. It's called Rhino Review. Well, their 4th edition is out today on Substack, which you can go check out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But I just wanted to give another shout out to this newsletter, because if you want to keep up with everything got to do with Ethereum staking and the Ethereum staking ecosystem, then Rhino Review is just for you, which you can obviously check out. As I said, I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But this newsletter is amazing. Honestly, there is so much information in here. You can spend so much time researching about staking just from these newsletters, and they come out once every 2 weeks, and there's 4 editions, as I've said before, and you can go check this out for yourself. It'll be linked in the YouTube description below. But this is some, I guess, weekend reading at this point. This is it's Friday today, so yeah, if you're interested in learning more about Ethereum staking and keeping up to date with everything got to do in the Ethereum staking ecosystem, then a Rhino Review is for you. So yeah, as I said, I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check it out for yourself. All right, Tony has added a few new things to the Mevboost.pix website. So he says here that Mevboost bids per relay / builder now displayed on the Mevboost.pix website. The interactive charts allow filtering by individual relay and builder. So I think this chart, from what I can remember, is in the Builder tab. I think it is. Yeah, okay. You can see here bids submitted per builder, and then there's also another chart here. So bids received and bids submitted, which I believe, yes. Actually, where was it? Oh no, it's under the relay one. I saw this before, and I'm just getting myself confused. So under the relay tab up here, bids received over the last 48 hours for each of the relays, and you can see the distribution is pretty even between Flashbots, Ultrasound Money, and Agnostic, and then the smaller ones are charted up here as well. And then you can go to the builders and see the bids submitted by individual builders here, which is pretty distributed compared to relays. You can see how many different builders there are and how they all have relatively similar market share. I think the 3 biggest builders are rsync builder, two of the rsync builders, and Manta builder. Here 3 rsync builders actually, and there's a few different ones as you scroll up here. So you can go obviously check that out for yourself and filter as well. As I said, that's an ability you have on the website. But yeah, if you're interested in anything got to do with Mevboost and MEV generally, I think Mevboost.pix has become pretty much my favorite website for keeping on top of everything I got to do with MEV metrics. There are so many different ways that the data is displayed here. There's filtering there. It's up-to-date data, and it tells you when and you've got access to the raw data as well, and the source on GitHub. So it's just a really great resource made by Tony here as a public good. So yeah, you should definitely go check that out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so Brendan Farmer from the Polygon zKEVM team has put out a tweet thread today, starting off by saying Polygon zKEVM is the closest thing to Ethereum block space. Now, of course, I'll link this thread in the YouTube description below for you to check out, but I don't particularly want to talk to this thread itself. I want to talk to a wider topic, and that is the topic of Ethereum block space and how L2s, whether they be zKEVMs or optimistic rollups or whatever else, are really at the heart of what they are. They're meant to be extensions of Ethereum block space. So I'm going to break that down. So Ethereum without L2, so just the Ethereum network itself, right? It has the L1 block space. Now, everyone in the world can access the L1 block space. Obviously, it's not cheap to access it, but everyone anywhere in the world can access it permissionlessly. There's no need for KYC. All you need to do is have an Ethereum wallet with some ETH to pay the gas fees, and you can do whatever you want on the network. Now, obviously, as I said, there are fees associated with that, and the fees are not cheap, and Ethereum block space demand is high, with supply being limited. So how do we fix that? How do we rectify that? Well, there are obviously a few different ways that we can increase the available block space on L1. The primary way is by increasing the block size, essentially, or in Ethereum, we call it the gas limit. Now, obviously, that is not long-term sustainable. There is a bunch of trade-offs that come with that. The biggest trade-off being that it further centralizes the chain and makes it harder for people to run the chain on normal consumer hardware. It increases the hardware that's required to run the chain. So, okay, then if that's the case, how do we scale? Like, how do we scale Ethereum? How do we scale to a global audience? Well, we do that via higher layers, like layer 2s and layer 3s. And that's why you'll often see people say that these Ethereum higher layers are just meant to be, or at the heart of what they're meant to be, is an extension of the Ethereum layer 1 block space. So essentially what layer 2s do, and this is an analogy that gets used quite often, but I think is pretty accurate, is that they compress transactions. So it's like you're zipping transactions, you're compressing them so that you can fit more into, you can fit more, I guess, like data into less, essentially. So basically when you have a USB drive and it's 32 gig, well, if you fill that up, the only way that you can that you are able to use more of it, right, or use more than 32 gig, or fill it up with more, is either deleting something off of the drive, right, which obviously is not filling it up with more. You're replacing, right, or you can compress the data, and you get more bang for your buck because of that, right? So that's essentially what the L2s are trying to do, and rollups do for Ethereum. They compress all of those transactions at L2 and then put it on L1. And you've seen lots of terminology around this, such as compressing proofs on the zKEVMs, so that the proof gets posted to L1 along with the data, which stores the state and all that sorts of stuff. And because of that, you can fit more transactions into an L2 block than you can on L1. But you still get to inherit the L1 security and other properties because you're doing that compression. So it's still really the same block space at the end of the day in a properly constructed decentralized rollup, but you're extending it, right? You're basically fitting more into the same amount of block space. So Ethereum L1, the gas limit hasn't gone up, but the scalability has gone up with these L2s because of the fact that they're compressing those transactions. I think that's a pretty good analogy for people who may be having a hard time wrapping their head around how L2s actually scale. Now, there are different kind of constructions, as I mentioned before. There's zKEVMs, there's optimistic rollups, there's Validiums, which I guess aren't true L2s, or they're not rollups, so they're a bit different, but they work in similar ways, right? They're different from a security perspective, but they work in a similar way. So just wanted to speak to that. I think mainly was that that's a good way of thinking about these L2s, that they're an extension of the existing block space that we have in Ethereum, and that's the whole point at the end of the day. L2s give us a lot of other things as well, such as a better and more expressive design space. They give us an ability to write smart contracts in different languages. We're not just tied down to Solidity and the offshoots of Solidity, right? There's more flexibility. There are ways to basically build apps on L2 that you can't build on L1. Not just got to do with the cost, but also got to do with things like privacy by default, and other such things like building games and stuff like that, right? With things that aren't available on layer 1 Ethereum, and things you just can't do on layer 1 Ethereum because the EVM won't let you do that. So there are a lot of other benefits, but essentially what the primary benefit of an L2 is to expand the available block space by bringing those fees down, obviously, for end users. And then we can also upgrade the block space, so to speak, by giving it new features that developers and users get to take advantage of. So yeah, anyway, you can read Brendan's thread for how this applies to Polygon zKEVM. I'll link it in the YouTube description below, and that's not a long thread at all. There's only 7 tweets here, but yeah, I just wanted to speak to the fact that layer 2s generally at the heart of what they are is a way to expand the available block space on Ethereum. Alright, so a big announcement out of EigenLayer today. They have released their testnet for the first stage of the EigenLayer protocol, which supports liquid and native restaking. So this is obviously stage 1 of the testnet. There are going to be 3 stages. So stage 1 is focused on stakers, stage 2 is focused on operators, and stage 3 is focused on services. The current launch for the stage 1 testnet is built on the Ethereum Goerli network and supports only a restaking. The testnet supports both native and liquid restaking. With native staking, new stakers can set their withdrawal credentials to EigenLayer when creating new validators, and existing stakers can repoint their withdrawal credentials to EigenLayer once Shapala goes live. And with liquid restaking, the testnet currently supports restaking for ST-ETH and R-ETH, so both Lido and Rockerpool. Liquid staking tokens to be supported at mainnet will be announced in advance and based on community input, and you can join the forum to discuss that there. But there is this blog post as well as that tweet thread explaining all of this and relevant links to check all of this stuff out, such as the testnet itself, the code on GitHub, the documentation, all that good stuff there. But awesome to see EigenLayer finally live on testnet. I mean, we've been hearing about EigenLayer for quite a while now, right? There's a lot of hype around this project. They just announced their fundraise, which I should disclose again that I participated in, of course. But yeah, I mean, I've said before on the refuel about how people have had concerns about EigenLayer generally for a number of different reasons, and I think I had a few discussions at ETH Denver about this, and my conclusion was basically that I understand people's concerns, but at the end of the day, I don't think we're going to get any real answers to those concerns until we actually see EigenLayer live and see how it plays out in a live mainnet fashion, with all the different incentives that entails. And I think we're going to see that sooner rather than later, now that the stage 1 testnet is already live, with stage 2 and 3 hopefully coming shortly after. And a mainnet launch, I would assume that they're going to try and get mainnet out definitely this year at some point. I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen, but I'm fairly certain they want to get this out as quickly as possible, given that withdrawals are going live next week, so there's no reason for them to need to wait any longer. And they're already at stage 1 of their testnet, which is really, really cool to see as well. So yeah, as I said, you can go check out the full details in the Twitter thread and the blog post, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. Alright, so Optimism's Bedrock upgrade has been approved, I believe. So yeah, the Token House has approved the Bedrock upgrade. This is a major milestone, not only as the collective's first ever vote on a protocol upgrade, but also as a step towards the Bedrock-enabled superchain future. And Optimism says, we'll share more info in the coming weeks as we get closer to the actual upgrade. For now, taking a moment to celebrate. So I mentioned, I believe yesterday, that I assume Bedrock is going to go live in sometime in May. I think that's still the case because it just went live on the testnet and they're letting it bake on Goerli for a couple of weeks, and it has now been approved for a mainnet deployment as well. So yeah, May looks pretty good. I mean, it could get pushed out to June, but May seems pretty promising here. And if you want to learn more about the superchain, which is something that Optimism has been talking a lot about lately, you can head to superchain.optimism.io, which isn't working right now for me. Yeah, I can see it here. Superchain, it doesn't seem to be loading for me. I don't know if that's because the URL is wrong or something else. Maybe it's the wrong URL. I'm not sure. No, maybe it's offline, I don't know, but you can just Google Optimism Superchain and I'm sure you'll be able to get to the right URL there. But that seems to be the big thing that they're going for post Bedrock, is creating this superchain of interconnected OP stack chains that can all talk to each other, interoperate with each other, and basically have it so that it's a big superchain network on top of Ethereum layer 1, and get all the benefits of the interoperability and other such features there. It remains to be seen how successful that is versus other designs in the L2 space, but I'm pretty excited about it. I think it can be something that people really get a lot of value out of. I think that if there is a thesis that there's going to be a lot of different app chains out there, not sovereign app chains, but app chains built on the OP stack, and if Optimism is encouraging which I think they definitely are by building things such as the OP stack, then it definitely makes sense for them to create infrastructure like the superchain in order for all these chains to be able to talk to each other and connect to each other rather than being isolated and kind of in their own silos. I think at the end of the day, the main draw and benefit of these crypto networks is that they're interoperable, that they're composable, and bringing that back to the L2 world, because we lost a bit of it initially with L2s, but bringing it back I think is a very important thing. And I'm great, and it's very awesome to see Optimism focusing on that. But yeah, I'm super excited for Bedrock. It has been approved for a mainnet deployment by the Token House, so let's keep an eye on that, and I'll keep you guys updated on that as we get closer to the mainnet launch. All right, speaking of launches, Aevo announced today that they have launched their product. So they say here, it's launch day. After months of building in stealth, we're finally ready to open our doors to traders. So today, users are able to start trading ETH options across daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly expiries. Getting started is as easy as bridging USDC from the Ethereum mainnet. Now, I remember I've covered this project once before on the Refuel. For those of you who don't understand what don't know what the project is, they're an on-chain options trading protocol. Now, I believe that they're live on which network are they on right now? They're not on Ethereum mainnet, I don't think. I think they're potentially on Optimism right now or Arbitrum. Oh wait, no, that's right. So I remember now. This is the project that was building their own app chain. So they're calling it Aevo chain, which is an optimistic rollup built on top of Ethereum that runs on the OP stack. So I guess this definitely talks to what I was just saying before about how the OP stack exists for people to spin up their own app chains really, really easily, and that's exactly what Aevo has done with Aevo chain here. And then potentially in the future, hopefully in the future, when the superchain is more of a reality, all of these chains are going to be able to connect to each other, talk to each other, and be able to interoperate and do all that good stuff that we like from DeFi, right? Interoperability, composability, all that good stuff there. But yeah, as I said, this is live today, and there's a roadmap here that they've stipulated as well. There's a few major milestones, including launching BTC options, more market maker integrations, and launching a stealth project around altcoin options trading. Once the Aevo exchange and Aevo chain are in a more mature state with millions of TVL in volume, will fully open up the exchange to the world without guardrails. So yeah, if you're someone who is a trader or interested in options trading, definitely go give Aevo a look. It's a very unique exchange where it's an app chain built on the OP stack. They got like a really cool interface here. I think this is really cool. I think this is something that that's going to go a long way to proving out the OP stack app chain thesis. If it actually works as advertised, which I don't really see any reason why it wouldn't. So yeah, definitely go check that out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so we have an update out of the Farcaster ecosystem from Dan Romero. So Jam is another Farcaster protocol front end, which is a fully functional replacement for Warpcast. So users can log in with Farcaster. They permissionlessly created a new longcast format, 4,000 plus characters, that gracefully falls back to a link in other clients, like iMessage, Blue Bubble, Green Bubble. So if you're on Farcaster right now, you can definitely go check out this new client instead of Warpcast if you would like to. It's available on both the iOS App Store and Android, and both of these links will be in the YouTube description below as part of this tweet. And also, I got a fresh round of Farcaster invites just very recently, so I'm going to be going through my backlog of DMs that I have from people who asked for an invite last time I I shouted it out. I actually didn't have like 70 invites. I think I had like 40 invites last time, and they went really, really quickly. I have about 90 left now, I think. So yeah, if you want a Farcaster invite, be sure to tag me in the Discord channel, and I'll DM you to get your email. So if I DM you for your email, it's because I need it for the Farcaster invite. There are a fair few people that were confused why I was asking them for their email. I have to, you get your email so I can send you the invite. So don't be scared if I DM you, say, what's your email, and I'll get that invite out to you hopefully relatively quickly. But yeah, as I said, there is a backlog right now. There are people who have DM'd me, so I'll try to get to you guys over the weekend. But yeah, if you're already on Farcaster, this is a client that you can check out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, finally here, there was a report put out from the US Treasury, which was a risk assessment on DeFi. Now, the actual report itself, I believe, has been circulated on Twitter, and you can probably Google it. I haven't got the link handy with me, but Tim Copeland from The Block tweeted out a pretty funny section of the conclusion of this risk assessment of DeFi. So there is a sentence here where the people who wrote this report say, and I quote, "Moreover, money laundering, proliferation financing, and terrorist financing most commonly occur using fiat currency or other traditional assets as opposed to virtual assets." Now, the reason why this is funny is because we've obviously, all of us over the years has heard constantly from the crypto haters that all crypto is good for is criminal activities. People just buy drugs with crypto, people do terrorism financing with crypto, people do money laundering with crypto, and that's all it's good for. Well, this report from the US Treasury Department itself, this isn't from some random think tank or a crypto bias publication, this is from the US Treasury Department themselves, says that all of these things are way more common using fiat currency than crypto. And anyone who has paid attention knows that to be true, because fiat currency obviously has much more adoption than crypto does, and by virtue of that, it is used much more frequently for criminal activities than crypto is. 99% of drug deals in the world are done using fiat currency, right? That's not even close. And I'm sure the same is true for terrorism financing and money laundering, because fiat has a million times more adoption than crypto has right now. So it doesn't actually make any logical sense for people to use for crypto to be used more than fiat currency. And on top of that, crypto is much easier to trace as well. Like, it's all transparent, except for a few different things. Like, there are some blockchains like Monero and Zcash, which are privacy preserving, and you can still use Tornado Cash if you want to do that, and there's Aztec protocol and things like that. But on net, like in terms of the amount of information that is exposed publicly from these networks, it dwarfs any of the privacy preserving stuff that we have. So again, it's not actually a tool that you should use. You're better off just using fiat if you want to launder money, or if you want to do drug deals or anything like that, rather than crypto. And that's what this report concludes here. And I actually put my own comment on this, and I said, the Treasury Department just played the ultimate Uno reverse card on the rest of the US government. Because I just thought it was funny that a lot of the rest of the US government and a lot of the politicians are saying, crypto's only for criminals, it's only used for criminal enterprises and all this stuff, when in reality, it's fiat that is used for that in a lot of different ways. And I think that's obvious to anyone paying attention. But as I said, you can read the full Treasury report for yourself. You just have to Google maybe US Treasury DeFi report, and you'll find it. As I said, I don't have the link handy right now for you. But yeah, you can go give it a read. I think there's a bunch of good insights in there from what I saw people talking about on Twitter, but just wanted to talk about that little excerpt because I thought it was quite funny. But anyway, on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks, everyone.